Hey everyone, we're live. Thanks for those of you who joined us on Crowdcast. We're also live on Twitter or YouTube, or if we're not, we will be soon. I'm Dan Reeser from the Wormhole Foundation, joined by Robinson, who's also from the Wormhole Foundation, and then Alonzo from the SUI team. Maybe we'll start with Alonzo. Can you give a quick introduction to yourself before we get into the rest of the agenda?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation here. I'm Alonzo. I'm the chief economist at Miston. We're the initial contributors to the SUI network. I guess like to give you a very short summary about where I've been through life. I used to be an academic for a very long time. I'm an economist, and I worked on the Libra project at Facebook for a while. And from there, I met all the founders of Miston Labs and joined Miston almost from the beginning, and have been working on the SUI network ever since. And really happy to be here.
Awesome, appreciate it. Robinson, maybe the first time some people have met you or at least seen you on video. Do you want to give a quick introduction?
Yeah, and super excited to be here. Thanks everyone for joining. So my name is Robinson. I lead growth for the Wormhole Foundation. I've been leading growth go-to-market strategies for better part of a decade, almost 2 years in crypto at this point. Previously spent a number of years at a company called DoorDash, building out new verticals there. And prior to joining Wormhole, led business development and ecosystem efforts at Akala, an app chain within the Polkadot ecosystem.
Cool. And yeah, similar to Robinson, at Wormhole Foundation, working on a lot of operations work as well as some marketing initiatives. Also came from the Polkadot ecosystem where I got to work with Robinson actually before we came to Wormhole Foundation, and been in crypto now for about 5 years. So this was one of the first launches that I got to work on. I'm really only 6 weeks into the job, so it was exciting to get to know SUI and the ecosystem that you guys are building. I know it's been one of the ecosystems that people have been most kind of excited about and anticipating in 2023 in terms of launches. The announcement we had, I think it was about a week or two ago, was around Wormhole integrating with SUI to help with kind of cross-chain interoperability between SUI and many other ecosystems around crypto. And today's agenda is really to learn more about SUI straight from the mouth of the team, as well as some of the applications, wallets that are building in the ecosystem, just so we can get a feel for like why people are building on SUI, what the challenges are, what the opportunities are, things like this. So we'll just work through the agenda, starting with SUI, then going to Cetus, Ethos, and then Turbos. People on the Crowdcast, there is a question and answer box. So if you want to ask questions throughout, feel free to throw your question there, and we'll save a little bit of time at the end to go through some questions. So let's jump into it, Alonzo. I think to start, it might be helpful just to walk us through just kind of the history and the impetus of SUI as a network, how you guys got started. Just walk us through kind of that story.
Yeah, for sure. Happy to go through that sort of story. It's been, quite a ride. The first thing I'd say is, we're the initial, like Miston is the initial contributor of SUI, but SUI is very much a community project. There's involvement of developers, from many different countries and very different communities. There's procedures for which the community can be part of the SUI protocol itself in terms of, for example, recently the SUI Foundation launched the SUI the process for doing SUI improvement proposals, in which the community can propose things to update the network, and they can be discussed and used to actually improve it. So we're just one out of many teams. But I guess the initial effort was, a bunch of us came from I guess it was back then it was still called Facebook, but then Meta on the Libra project. And the sort of goal of that project was to really make crypto successful in that sort of leap forward in terms of making crypto and blockchain a set of applications that could power use cases for hundreds of millions, if not billions, of people, and address real concerns such as financial inclusion. And so, even though Libra was never able to launch, I think a lot of that ethos, a lot about those principles and energies carried through to Words Missing and then the creation of Sui. And sort of what we try to do is when we created Sui, we sort of try to go back to square one, or not created, but we try to figure out what the initial design of Sui might be. Was go back to square one and figure out sort of how can we re-architect things to make sure that Sui can be a platform that can serve these billions of people or hundreds of millions of people. And I think just to summarize in that journey, there were three big things that happened. One is realizing that sort of the architecture the traditional blockchains have in terms of having like a very specific literal blockchain type of architecture in which every transaction within a block is ordered relative to each other, but also within a whole blockchain, literally every transaction is ordered relative to each other. For Sui is very different in the sense that at Sui, what really matters is that everything that lives on chain, whether it's a fungible or non-fungible token, is an object. And that's very useful because typically in the world, people are doing very different things, right? Some people are engaging with financial applications, DeFi, retail finance, institutional finance. Other people are launching NFTs. Other people are looking at commerce or other types of digital applications. And these applications are very different. So there's really no reason for these applications or these users to have dependencies with each other. And what this object-centric architecture gives you is the ability to really scale the operations of the blockchain such that if 2 or 3 or 4 applications are sort of independent from each other, they can be processed in parallel. And thus, if one part of the network is very congested, that doesn't create sort of negative spillovers on the rest. And so Sui is built with this object-centric architecture, which means that in the future, it could power hundreds or thousands of applications, each with a lot of traffic at the same time, without the network as a whole becoming congested. And so it really becomes as a platform that can really power sort of the future of the internet and digital ownership and digital assets. That's one thing, which I think is really important in order to create a scalable blockchain. The second one is that the programming language that is used to do smart contract development on the Sui network is the Move programming language that was originally created by in Facebook for the Libra project, and sort of the original creator of Move, Sam, who's our CTO, is here at Miston. Move is I think it's a really game changer in terms of how you think about software development, because it's a language that was created to be very accessible, very easy to learn, and also very safe. So that even if you don't have a PhD in programming languages, you can prototype an application, and you can easily go and launch it, into production in the blockchain without having to worry whether, some assets are going to be lost or bad stuff is going to happen. And I think as an economist, the reason I think this is very important is because Move is something that can sort of unleash the gates of product innovation in the blockchain space, right? Like, I think one of the reasons why in previous blockchain ecosystems you've seen teams very much sort of repeat successes of the past and tweaking little is because the code base is so brittle and it's so risky to change things, yet that you end up just sort of copying 90% of the code base and changing 10%. Whereas Move really lets you start from zero and do whatever you want because it's much more accessible. And so my hope is that this will sort of garner the enthusiasm of developers all over the world in different parts and in different industries to create all those applications that actually will bring blockchain and Web3 infrastructure to everyone across the globe. And finally, I think the third big thing in this sort of journey of Sui is that Sui, obviously, what we discussed, the first two things, the architecture and the Move programming language, is that from an engineering perspective, Sui is very, very performant. Obviously, it has a very frontier design. But the last part is, and sort of this is sort of what I do, is we try to make sure that the tokenomics, or sort of the way that the financials of a blockchain work, are very attuned to that engineering design, so that while the blockchain can be very performant from an engineering perspective, the sort of financial layer that you as an application or as a user interact with is also very streamlined and performant in that sense. And so there's a bunch of elements. There's like a Sui storage fund, which deals with storage. There's a whole mechanism to figure out sort of how should gas fees evolve when the network scales, how the proof of stake mechanism works in order to make sure that the network is secure. That are all very designed and tweaked hand in hand with the engineering design. And so I think that's sort of the journey of what we try, like the initial impetus of contributing as the initial contributor team to Sui. These are the big things that were part of that initial design. And now that Sui is live, I think the goal for everyone, including us as the initial contributor team, but also the Sui Foundation and also developers and folks like you guys, is to make sure that all these goals can become a reality.
I feel like I've been working with you all for a few months now, but also just learned quite a bit there. So appreciate that, Alonso. I guess you explained really concretely around why Sui, and I almost want to take that few minutes and just run it back, because I think it makes a lot of sense. When we think about builders and app developers building on Sui, are there any projects that Sui is more suited for, or I know you spoke a little bit about the object-centric nature of things and maybe it being more applicable for all projects, but help us understand, if I'm a builder building on Sui, how I should think about what I should build, why, etc.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I would say, there's really many examples we can tell about, things that Sui is very performant for. So one thing, obviously, is, things that can be parallelized. Sui is very performant. For example, if you were to run a payments platform, right? Like in general, payments are mostly either peer-to-peer between merchants or users, or like wholesalers and retailers. Most of that stuff is independent. And so that means that you can really handle, a lot of payments at the same time, and that really have no effect on the network as a whole. So that is sort of, for example, one application. Anything that can be parallelized, there's like a lot of strong gains in Sui. Another thing is things for which you really care about, such as atomic composability, right? Because the whole point about Sui is that you can parallelize things within the network, but you're still sort of in the network. It's not like you need to create a side chain or a layer to sort of deal with those things. And so that's very powerful, because while sometimes you may want to have an application that is sort of running sort of in its little, sub network in a sense, and being very performant there, and not, needing to be affected by delays in other part of the network. At the same time, there are many moments when you're going to want that functionality to interact with the rest of the network. And so Sui really gives you sort of the best of both worlds, in the sense that you can have sort of this like protected sub network, in a sense, in which like the objects in that sub network are only interacting with each other, but they are actually connected to the rest of the network. And so you can sort of get both atomic composability and parallelization at the same time, and that really gives you sort of a developer framework for creating very, very powerful applications.
I want to go back into your part about Move, the framework. One thing that's challenging, I think, for teams like you guys is that there is such adoption and just like network effects in the Solidity developer world. And this is something that I think every non-Solidity chain has to deal with. So could you just walk us through kind of how you think about like growing the Move developer ecosystem as a whole, and what ways people can try to, if you're talking about to a Solidity developer, how would that person kind of go on this path of converting into a Move developer, like resources, programs, etc.?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I mean, I think the first thing we need to understand is, even if you look at the Solidity world, while it's true there are some network effects there, if you look at the overall community of Solidity developers relative to other open source language communities, for example, JavaScript, it's still like a drop in the bucket, right? Like it's very, very early. And I think when you're thinking about really, driving this infrastructure to the next billion users, we need to think both about existing developers and other blockchain or Web3 ecosystems, but also more generally about Web2 developers, people that are very comfortable in other languages such as Rust or JavaScript or whatever. And the real challenge is making sure you can create the tools to make everyone on board, because you need that innovation to come from various verticals. That said, I think one of the powers of Move is, since it's a programming language, it's not specific to Sui. There are other chains that are also integrating Move, some with some slight differences. For example, Sui has actually a optimized version of Move called Sui Move, which is particularly tailored to this object-centric architecture. But in general, like there are a lot of overlap with sort of more general versions of Move, and so it in general you can be a developer in both. But the point is, I think there are a lot of resources. So for example, the Sui Foundation has a lot of both resources and programs to help develop on Sui. You know, they have developer grants for people that are creating applications. They have academic research grants for people that are doing core research on both the protocol, but things related to Sui. You know, they have community programs, and they have a lot of content on Move. And I do think they're, as far as I know, they're creating educational pieces which will help folks both, you know, as tutorials and prototyping into Move and being able to create a simple project from which you can then take as a sort of a skeleton to create a more complex one. So I think like we're still very early, but slowly we're starting to see the seeds of those tools that will let people eventually become, you know, very performant Move developers and transition from like other languages in which they're very proficient towards Move.
Thanks for that, Alonso. Obviously part of the reason why we're here today too, and taking a little bit of a step back is, you know, Wormhole, we've been working a lot with Sui on the launch, and it's been a fun couple of months for sure. I guess taking also a step back on the Wormhole side, I think what might be helpful for some of the audience today, for those who don't know, so Wormhole is a generic message passing interoperability protocol. Today we connect 23 chains across 6 different runtimes. Obviously, we worked with the Sui team closely on their launch and making sure that you know, we were able to bring in users from other ecosystems to try some of the stuff Alonso's been speaking about. So I guess, Alonso, from your perspective and some of the stuff you've been doing with Sui, I'm curious to get a better sense of, you know, why Wormhole? Why is it important for, I guess, to work with bridges, especially you know, being kind of an L1 of sorts, an ecosystem on your own, an island in a way. If you can shed a little light on that, that would be great.
Yeah, so I think, you know, generally when you think about, you know, the Sui network or a blockchain or a layer one is not that different from other platforms, right? You always have this sort of cold start problem in which, like, you know, it's very easy to imagine sort of what the long term or steady state looks like, you know, but it's very hard to think about, you know, how do you get there, right? So for example, you might think, you know, there's an e-commerce platform, maybe it's like eBay or Amazon that you think is like maybe not that good, and you can come up with a better idea of how it should work. But while you can create that infrastructure, it's going to be very hard for actually achieve the levels of volume that eBay or an Amazon have, because, you know, in order for buyers to go there, you need to have sellers. And in order for sellers to go there, you need to have buyers. And so how do you even like ignite that flywheel, right? So I think with a layer one, it's kind of like a similar idea in the sense that, sure, you can have like all these cool smart contract development tools, you can have people building, but if you don't have assets, whether they're fungible token or liquidity type assets or non-fungible assets, or any other type of assets, like how are you going to get people to build there? So it's very important, I think, to provide folks with the tools so that they can easily onboard into this network, onto this platform, and sort of minimize those frictions. I think bridges are one example of them. You know, bridges are sort of the probably predominant tool for bridging an asset from from one layer one to another. But there's obviously many other channels through which people can onboard. And the reality is just, you know, the goal is how do we minimize those frictions so that, you know, moving from one blockchain to another almost feels as seamless as, you know, porting over my email account from like Gmail to Outlook or whatever it is you use.
Yeah, I love that. We oftentimes talk about cross-chain kind of being this, and I know we a lot of people in crypto have this obsession about UX and onboarding a billion users, et cetera. Hopefully, you know, those will come, but we oftentimes have this this saying internally around cross-chain is this UX unlock, right? We want to abstract away a lot of the complexities, so it is as easy as possible to onboard onto a new ecosystem.
Cool. Well, Alonso, I think we need to wrap up this section and move in to meet some of the teams building with this tech that you just walked us through. So really appreciate the time. We'll definitely, hopefully, do this sometime again soon, and have a good rest of your day.
Definitely. Thanks, folks. And yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I'm keen to listening to the rest of this stream. So I'll be here. Thanks, guys, for the invite.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Alonso.
So Cetus just sent you an invite to the stage. You should see that.
Come on up, Cetus.
We've got Geo. from Cetus.
Geo, sign of life. I see them. I see Cetus in the chat. They're excited.
There we go.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Hey, yes.
Okay, the connection just went through.
Awesome.
Thank you guys.
How's it going?
Yeah, pretty good. And thanks for the invitation from Wormhole team. We are very happy to join this meeting and bring some interesting thoughts and opinion from our team to all the audience.
Yeah, of course. So let's just get into it. So everyone has the background now of Sui and the platform that they've built. The purpose of that platform, of course, is to enable this whole ecosystem of thriving applications who are solving problems for the world. So Cetus and Geo specifically has come on to just walk us through kind of what they're building, why they chose to build on Sui, and we've got a few more questions to walk you through. So Geo, why don't you get us started with just kind of give us an overview of Cetus, maybe a quick introduction to yourself and what your role is, and maybe like history, how you guys got started, when you got started, etc.
Sure. And it's our pleasure. Actually, the nature of Cetus is a DEX and also a concentrated liquidity market maker protocol focusing on the Move ecosystem. And Sui is the key network that we are focusing on right now. To compare with most of the existing DEXs on the Move ecosystem, we allow our liquidity providers to allocate their capital within a range that they customize, and they can flexibly concentrate their money within a range that is much closer to the current market price, so that their capital can be more likely to be utilized by the ongoing transactions. And with a limited scale of TVL, they can earn the transaction fees and earnings much faster than what it did before in other DEXs. And before we deploy Cetus on the Move ecosystem, especially on Sui, we entered this blockchain industry for many years, and we had a very strong quantitative trading background. We used to do the market making services and quantitative trading in terms of crypto trading and also digital derivative trading. And since the birth of Uniswap v3 on Ethereum, we have been a long-term LP on Uniswap v3, and we did a lot of LPing and on-chain arbitrage between different CEX and also DEX. And during our experience as an LP on Uniswap v3, we became a real believer of this very classic model, and we think this model has been well proven by the market because right now it accounts for a significant portion of the whole market share in terms of TVL and the trading volume handling. And but we also think that the real potential and the power of this very classic model hasn't been fully performed on Ethereum network due to its very high gas cost and very serious network congestion. And we believe this model can be even boosted on those new and emerging layer ones, and especially on a network like Sui, which can provide the parallel consensus mechanism and the high throughput and low gas. And that's why we built Cetus on the Sui network from its day one. And we are very glad to be one of the official launching partner of Mr. Labs and Sui Foundation. We are actually the first step to be live on Sui mainnet from its day one. And based on the concentrated liquid market maker that we have built, all of the major roles in this ecosystem can benefit from this product, especially for those LPs. They can enjoy a much better capital efficiency and a higher flexibility in terms of their liquidity provision and liquidity management. They can leverage their limited scale of the liquidity to get much higher yields than they did before. And also for traders, they can enjoy a better market depth and a lower price slippage because the capital concentrated within near the current market price is deeper than the custom product AMM that we have seen before. So for every transaction placed on Cetus, users can enjoy a very low price slippage.
Yeah.
And also we help those project owners on Sui to easily launch their token and easily manage their on-chain market making and on-chain token performance. So in a word, we provide them with a full one-stop solution to kick off their project and manage their on-chain token performance so that they may feel it easy to start their project and manage their long-term market making with their and they can put their focus more on their product and use cases design, and so that we have helped more than a few projects on Sui along the testnet and mainnet to help them with their initial pool creation and initial token trading. Yes, that's the core offering that we are making, and we are also building a series of new functions and modules to help this ecosystem to be improved to another level.
Thanks, Gio. You guys are doing a ton, and it sounds like a lot of what you're doing and building, you couldn't accomplish on other networks. I think you mentioned Ethereum, which is really interesting. I think in general, over the past couple of years in the crypto industry, we've kind of gone from this multi-chain as a meme or a school of thought, if you will, to just being the industry standard. And I think you guys are kind of proof of that. And even in the fact that I think you all also have a deployment on Aptos, which is really interesting. So if you could give some context, you guys are in quite a unique position in that way where you can kind of see the biggest differences between Aptos and Sui. So maybe if we can take a few minutes to get a better understanding of what some of those main differences have been for you all as you've built out Cetus on both networks.
Sure. Actually, at the beginning of when we started this project, we positioned Cetus as a move-focused protocol, and at that back to that time, Sui hasn't launched its mainnet, so we launched our Ethos version to get started, and it actually gave us a lot of experience and knowledge about how to program in Move. And here I also want to give us some suggestion to those new developers who are looking to build on the Move ecosystem, because back to a few months ago when we officially started this project and started building on Aptos and Sui, some early developers told us those two networks are pretty similar and both of them are using the Move language to develop. It would be very easy to fork one protocol from one network to another. And so I've seen a lot of early projects, they want to build their multi-chain version on those Aptos and Sui, and they try to fork their product from one network to another. But from our actual experience, our practical experience, even though those networks are based on the Move language, it still had a lot of differences, a lot of big differences. And regarding the programming language, the Aptos is using the language that is adopted by Aptos is much closer to the native Move programming language. While Sui has made a lot of unique adjustment and optimization to the native Move, and which is so-called Sui Move programming language. And these two languages are pretty different in terms of the logic handling, because Sui is an object-oriented programming language. So when developers started building on these two networks, they have to own a very different mindset regarding their logic and mechanism design. and that's the difference from the technical side. Our tips is that is basically like building two products using two different language. It's not that hard. It's not that easy to directly fork the product from one to another. So for any new developers who want to entering this other Ethos of Suite, you better have this, be aware of this, and do your own research and be more prepared and know about which one is more suitable for your own use cases, and make a good decision on which one to go first. And also from another perspective is that the positioning of these two layer one networks are a little different, because Ethos is more like a general purpose blockchain, while even Sui can also serve a variety of use cases and scenarios. But at the end of the day, its main focus is still on the NFT and GameFi projects, and it has designed a lot of unique features and modules that can make the work of those GameFi project design and NFT very easy. And so when you decide to build on Sui, it's better to think about how to serve the actual use cases and demand on this ecosystem well, because to serve a similar demand of on different blockchains, there might be different suitable solutions, and what works for one blockchain might not be working for another. So just have network positioning and use cases differences in mind before deploying your product is very helpful for your decision making.
That's a really interesting insight, I think. At first glance, it would seem like it was very easy to just essentially deploy something that you built on Aptos onto Sui, but it sounds like you're saying it's similar to some of these EVMs that are like two different flavors of EVM, and it's very difficult to actually like essentially copy paste from one to another. So
it's on the logic, how to get used to the logic set by the different blockchains. So you have to own a different mindset before you proceed with product development.
Yep. Yeah, appreciate that. Well, we're running up on our time. Gio, do you want to give people just kind of next steps where they can go to start using Cetus, check things out, and then where they can follow you guys?
Sure. So yeah, because we found that there have been several different parties on the market who try to do the phishing or scamming to people in the name of our projects, and we have seen a lot of fake and counterfeit versions of Cetus on the market. So we every time we try to notify the people on the market, before you take any decisions or actions, do double check with our official website and verify if you are looking at the correct website or social links before you take any financial or any product interaction decisions. So our official website is www.cetus.zone, and every of our official social media links are displayed on our official website. So do double check every time before you take any further actions. And also regarding every of our official news about Cetus, our official Twitter will be one of our primary online presence to give our audience about our first-hand news and a new announcement. So please stay tuned to our official Twitter to keep updated about our new progress.
Sounds great. Well, Gio, thanks for the time. It was great learning more about what you guys are building, and congrats on, I know it's been probably a lot of hard work. So keep it up. We're looking forward to continuing to working with you. I'm going to bring Nadia on stage from the Ethos team. So Nadia, look for the invite, and Gio, feel free to hang around.
Thank you.
There she is. You hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
There you go. Got it.
Awesome.
Yes.
Sorry, it took a little bit to figure out the mic permissions.
Yeah. Well, good to see you. So cool. We've had some good background, I think, leading into the conversation with you. I'm going to just jump into it since we've got about 10 minutes. So give us kind of your story and how Ethos got started.
Yeah, thanks for having us. So I'm Nadia, I'm the co-founder and CEO of Ethos, and our background has really been building new technology products and trying to introduce those to more mainstream audiences. We spent a long time building in Web 2 with new technologies. My background was I'd worked on new writer products at Lyft. My co-founder, who's Ethos' CTO, has spent 20 plus years building consumer applications with different new technologies. And for us, we were really excited about what the blockchain sort of generally could enable with digital ownership. Related a lot to the conversation of sort of Solidity devs and exploring move from that world. We spent a long time building in the Ethereum ecosystem, exploring different creative ideas and just trying to think about, how do you take this powerful technology and apply it to more useful experiences, more delightful experiences, make it part of more people's lives in a meaningful way. And we felt pretty constrained, both as sort of developers and end users, in terms of being able to efficiently build creative and consumer applications specifically on chain. When you think about sort of consumer software development, agile processes are super important, experimentation, literally being able to move fast and creatively. And with smart contract development, that, historically is very much not the case for understandable reasons. You want to make sure that what you're building is safe and secure. You need to take time to have things like auditing. But because of the complexity of the code, what that usually means is that it's very, very slow, which is kind of like antithetical to how you build great consumer apps, at least in my experience. And so for us, we first got really excited about Sui and Move because it sort of had that potential to some of the earlier points in the conversation of just being a higher performance blockchain that's both faster and safer and easier to use and build with. Both as developers and consumers. And so as we sort of dug in there, we learned a lot, pretty early on. It's been a little bit over a year now since we've been building in the Sui ecosystem about what you can do with sort of that parallel processing, the object-centric nature. And that got us really excited in terms of just being able to create more creative applications with less code. However, if you think about it, wallets historically have not really been designed for dynamic experiences or applications. They've really been more about signing transactions and holding, coins and assets. And so for us, we felt like that was a pretty big bottleneck to the kinds of experiences we were excited to see in the Sui ecosystem. And that's sort of the history of how Ethos started. So we're trying to really reinvent the wallet from scratch to sort of support these more dynamic use cases. We've got sort of 3 core areas that we're working on. We're building developer infrastructure and tools to really help ease onboarding and to make wallets less of this bottleneck and more of sort of a gateway to experiencing these applications. We've got the wallet itself. We have a Chrome extension and we're working on mobile, and we have a browser-based explorer as well. And the goal there is really to focus on applications and experiences, making it fast and safer to interact with those. And then because we were so early to Sui, we've also just been building a lot with Sui Move and building different applications. We launched a super simple game, Sui 8192. I think it was one of the first fully on-chain games out there. It's a fun example of how you can work on both the application side and the wallet side to make experiences a little more fast and seamless and fun. So a lot of great stuff in the ecosystem, and excited to join you guys.
Yeah, no, we're super excited too. And thank you for sharing that. I actually didn't know a lot of that story. So it's really helpful. And I love the way you guys are thinking about wallets, because I'm sure you hear this building in this particular wallet space quite a bit, but I don't know if others have heard this as well, but I oftentimes feel like wallet is like a term we should rethink. It's a lot of times, I think, people think, where tokens live, then other people think, oh, also where you sign transactions. But if you also think like a place to, enhance the experience of the overall applications or house, certain instances of applications themselves. So I love that you all are thinking about that. And you kind of went into this a little bit, but if you can give, I guess, a little bit more context on kind of why Ethos. We're in a similar boat when it comes to, I guess, taking a step back when it comes to launching a network, right? Bridges are obviously key. So wormholes, that's why Wormhole work closely with Sui, but a lot of times you're the first touch point for a lot of these new users as well. So how do you think about differentiating yourselves in such a crowded space? And just if you could tell us a little bit more about that, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think for us, when you think about sort of the history of the wallet, and I totally agree, I think the term today is like a little bit stale, but it really was sort of about, originally holding coins, then it sort of evolved to be more around signing transactions and interacting in that capacity. And I think if you sort of look around the landscape today, like there are so many options for wallets, but they all kind of have the same functionality, the same user interface and experience, maybe with some, different flavors. But it's all kind of still at that same use case, which I think is really great for where the ecosystem was. But I think for us, we really took a lot of inspiration about like, what could the future hold? Imagine a world where it's not just, NFT, collectibles, DeFi, those sorts of use cases, but there's so many more things. And I think you're seeing this already with things like gaming on Sui, for example, but I think there's so much more, from e-commerce to like applications that like we haven't even thought of yet that the blockchain uniquely enables. And so for us, it felt like you kind of have to toss the design patterns out the window for the wallet. And we actually took a lot of inspiration from, Apple and sort of the history of computing and sort of thinking about the early days of like console computing and how, you had this pretty clunky interface that actually was really difficult to use. In some cases, it was, so complex that it actually was unsafe. People couldn't interact with applications easily. And you can really change how accessible something is, not even just for new users, but expert users as well, and what they can do by abstracting away a lot of that complexity, making it more sort of simple, more intuitive, easier to use, easier to dive in and discover and experience different applications. And so that was sort of how we thought about Ethos Wallet, was like toss out the concept of wallet, like what's the best possible way you can help people discover and experience apps on Sui. We really focused on like the design principles of usability, user friendliness, but also speed and security and safety, and wanting to really support people along the journey. I think there's kind of like this false dichotomy of like, you can build, for new to Web3 folks and you need to abstract away everything, or you can build for sort of pros and, crypto experts and degens, and you want all the technical complexity. But as a pretty deep, user myself, like it's really hard to interact with applications today in a lot of cases. And I am pretty technical and have the expertise. So for us, it was thinking about how do you support someone along that journey where it works for someone new, it works for someone experienced, it has the flexibility. It's not a one size fits all take on how you interact with applications, but it's really more dynamic. And it supports different kinds of use cases and experiences and sort of the customization that the end user might want. So that's sort of our take, is really trying to move away, honestly, from where we are today with wallets, and really trying to just push towards a future where you can do more things and the wallet facilitates that versus sort of bottlenecking that.
If you can please help remove the tinge of fear I get sometimes when I authorize a transaction, I would love that. So thank you, Nadia.
I want to just dig into that a little bit more, Nadia, like more specifically to your product. Could you just look out like maybe a year from now, a year or two, and just what you see Ethos kind of turning into in terms of product roadmap, like what people may be able to expect in terms of functionality, features, things like this?
Yeah, I mean, a year is a long time. I feel like thinking about last year to now, there's so much that could happen. But I would say like at sort of the fundamental level, I think there's two outcomes that we really want to help support for the Sui ecosystem. One is just for developers who are building new kinds of apps and experiences, anything that's like creative, that's valuable, that's different. We really want to enable that. And so on that side, we're leaning heavily into wallet infrastructure, which we leverage ourselves in our own products. So we're constantly dogfooding that. But really the idea there is how do you move sort of beyond offering the one size fits all connect wallet experience? Some folks that's adequate, that's great, just make it super fast and easy. They shouldn't have to do any custom work. Like that is a very established paradigm. But for folks that are doing things a little bit differently, how do you help onboard users in different ways, whether it's things like sign in with email. I know Mistin's talked a bit about like ZK social login. There's a lot of interesting options there where you still sort of have, as end users, self-custody, you have high security, but suddenly there's a lot less friction in terms of the first step of interacting with an application being writing down your seed and hopefully, tucking it in a sock drawer or something like that. So there's a lot of options there. And our goal is really to just provide tools and infrastructure to help developers build the kinds of experiences they want to build, where they don't have to take as much time to focus on how do I connect wallet, how do I deal with onboarding, not just for Ethos, but for all sort of wallets on Sui. The second piece I would say is the wallet itself, and really trying to evolve that to hopefully support a more vibrant ecosystem. A year from now, I really hope that we're seeing hundreds, if not thousands, of different kinds of applications on Sui across all sorts of use cases. And so from the wallet standpoint, we really want to support that, the Explorer being the primary place to facilitate discovery. It's a browser-based experience. You can have it full screen. You can really go deep on different apps, potentially even using some of them in a more integrated way. I think Wormhole and bridging is sort of a great example that could be a more integrated experience. There's also the Chrome extension and mobile. I think for each, it's sort of different pieces that work well together, but also have their own independent needs. I see mobile being a really big part of the future, where if you imagine digital assets being a part of everyday life, it's hard to imagine that not being mobile. I can't imagine today waking up and checking, an existing wallet on my phone and just being so excited. You're probably checking Twitter or, email. But I imagine a world where a year from now, there's things happening in your digital life in Sui that you want to wake up and check, that it's so exciting. So I do see mobile being a big part of that future. And then the third piece is our team just loves building applications. And our goal there is really to create sort of innovative experiences that are a little out there, that hopefully are fun for end users, but also are inspiring to other builders that are sort of pushing on the boundaries of what can we do with Sui Move, and sort of how far can you take that in terms of these more sort of dynamic experiences. I think the concept of sort of dynamic NFTs has existed for a little while, but I think Sui lets you bring that to life in a really unique way. Sui 192, the game is an NFT. It's dynamic. Every move changes it in a way that, it's not the same. It's just getting a trophy that's sort of static and you're playing the game off chain. So I think there's a lot there to explore. So I would say year out from now, hopefully we've built some really cool applications that are inspiring other builders. We've provided a lot of tools that, we've learned and sort of hit pain points and unblock those for others. And we've really shifted, what a wallet is. Maybe we're not even using the term wallet anymore, but it's really become a place for safely and quickly experiencing awesome applications on Sui.
Awesome. So it sounds like you guys are building the wallet, also getting into application development, focusing on mobile, enabling all these new Sui applications. Quite a bit going on. I'm gonna have to wrap up this portion of the agenda and let you maybe just give people where to go to learn more, follow you guys, and maybe download the wallet to try it out.
Yeah, thank you again for hosting us. Ethoswallet.xyz is our website. That's our Twitter handle as well. And I would say to get started, probably the Chrome extension today is the best. We're Ethos Sui Wallet on the Chrome store. And definitely, let us know if you have feedback. Our team's super open. We've got a Discord community. We love hearing ideas and product feedback from folks in the community. So reach out anytime. And thank you, Wormhole team, for having us. This has been awesome.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Nadia.
Thanks for coming.
Your year out vision got me excited. Appreciate you joining.
Yeah. All right, last but not least, I've sent an invite to Ted from the Turbos team. So Ted, feel free to, there you are, accept, bring you, here we go.
Hey, Ted.
There we go.
Hey, everyone.
Awesome. Mic's working, camera's working.
Yep.
We're good to go. So we've got about 7 minutes till the top of the hour. We'll probably run over by maybe 5-10 minutes max, and then wrap it up. So Ted, I'm just gonna get into it. Can you give the audience just the story and background on Turbos, maybe the main problems that you guys are trying to solve with your application?
Yeah, sure. Turbos is really a DeFi platform where we enable people to trade and earn digital assets and crypto easily. Our mission is to onboard the next billion Web3 users to try this cool financial system on chain. And therefore, we really want to cater traders from the very beginning level to professional level. So it's a very ambitious, mission. And I've been leading the team almost a year now, building in Sui. And it has been really a cool journey. And our concentrated liquidity market maker CRM product is live. We also recently launched our launchpad called Turbo Star, where we really help builders and projects in the Sui ecosystem to solve the cold start problem, find your early supporter, and then seamlessly link to our liquidity pool and set up liquidity pools to offer your project tokens to your early supporters. And that's a short introduction about Turbos.
Thanks, Ed. Appreciate it. I know we have obviously been working closely, and it's great to see you on here. Thank you for taking the time. I know things have been super busy since launch. Just wanted to start with kind of the infamous question. Why Sui? What kind of, like, as you guys knew you wanted to build Turbos, what was kind of the impetus to where you were like, we want to build Turbos on Sui?
Yeah, that's a good question. When we think about DeFi, the first fundamental thing is actually ownership. So this unique digital asset ownership on Sui Move is really what attracted me and the team first to develop on Sui. A comparison with EVM network. Think about it. If you have an asset, right? On EVM network, it's simply a numerical balance that lives under a smart contract. If something goes wrong with that smart contract, like that giant building is wrong, there's no security with your asset. But on Sui Move, things are completely different. You have this object model. It lives under your account, right? Let's say. So even if the smart contract that creates the digital assets is hacked for whatever reason, hackers don't get access to your money because your account actually owns that digital asset. So that's really, it's more intuitive when you compare it to the Web 2 world, right? Where you really own something. And that really differentiates the early generation of blockchain like Ethereum also. So that's very important. And second of all, stability is important for DeFi. We all, suffered, let's say, on EVMs when there's a very popular mint of an NFT, 10,000 transactions, jam the network, and all of a sudden you can't do a simple swap because the network is completely occupied. And on Sui, because of this parallel, transaction and the consensus mechanisms that really, put these simple transactions and those more complicated DeFi transactions that touch share object, completely separate them so that you can have a very fun and heated mint event while your financial system is still stable. So those are really the two fundamental stuff that makes DeFi on Sui attractive.
I wanted to ask a question going back to the conversation with Alonso about Move. You guys obviously had to get yourselves up to speed on Move. Do you have any general advice or just tips for people who are looking to come into the Sui ecosystem and they need to get up to speed on Move? Like anything you would have done differently, or ways to learn faster, resources, anything like that?
Yeah, I think it has been, we feel a lot of, support from multiple Telegram chats and support from the Sui Foundation, Miston Labs. There are really lots of places you can pick up Sui Move. And we realized there's also educational part of there's educational department from the Sui initiative from the Sui Foundation that really, their programs, it help you we feel like the resources are more available nowadays. So it's really the time for folks to coming in and then pick up the Move language, particularly Sui Move. So I'm very excited about the next coming years. I'm sure the mass adoption will happen about this, using this language to build cool applications, and it really makes you think differently because it's fundamentally designed differently from Ethereum's. So we're super bullish about it.
Yep, makes a lot of sense. One more question, and then we'll probably be able to wrap up. I don't think we have any questions in the Q&A box, so we can probably wrap it up right around the top of the hour. I guess 2 more questions. First, I'm just wondering, so as an AMM, there's a lot of ways to build composable apps that integrate with Turbos. So what would be, like, just to get other developers or teams, I don't know, just to spark some thoughts in their head, that what would be some potential use cases or ways that you would like to see people integrate Turbos within the Sui ecosystem?
Yeah, that's a good question. We want to be a liquidity layer in Sui network rather than just a DeFi application. What that means is we want developers to seamlessly use our liquidity, use our product and infrastructure in their products, right? If, for example, if you're a GameFi project, you somehow want to build a financial or economic system in your game, instead of building it from scratch, you can maybe utilize what we have built and then just putting in a game. In the end, the game users, they don't even realize that, oh, we're actually using a service from a DeFi protocol called Turbos. Rather, it's like a seamlessly game experience. If you want to trade, a game assets or something, you do, use Turbos, but you just don't realize it that you're using it. That's some of the experience we want to offer users. Yeah.
Yep, love it. Well, cool. Ted, thanks for the time. It's been great learning more about what you guys are building. Where should people go to use Turbos and follow the latest updates from you guys?
Yeah, our website is turbos.finance. More specifically, to use our concentrated liquidity product, you can go to app.turbos.finance.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Well, we will. Yeah, thanks, Ted. Thanks, everyone. So Nadia, Gio, Alonzo, appreciate everyone taking the time. I didn't have a lot of background on the Sui ecosystem besides some research I was doing when we were launching with you guys. So it was great to see some faces, learn more about what everyone's building and kind of the history of this new ecosystem. And we're definitely excited to continuing to support you guys as you grow too.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for joining. We can wrap it up there. Have a good rest of your day.